Hi everyone, welcome again to Imperium Powerhouse podcast. Our guest today is Martin Adams. Martin is an entrepreneur and a property investor that started his journey not long time ago. He started as an HMO property investor, and then he diversified his portfolio to go through to increase his portfolio to go into Airbnbs and short-term rentals. His journey is impressive. His journey has a lot of success. I think now let's see from Martin. Let's hear from Martin how good is his journey, and he can give us a brief and intro about himself. Hi, Martin. How are you?
Hi, mate. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's my pleasure to have you here. So, give us more. Let's know more about yourself.
So, 32 years old, just come from a normal working class background. Didn't really enjoy school, like most entrepreneurs, I guess. Didn't really like the learning. Come out of school, got put into a family business, which was in the building trade. Ended up sort of scaling up from there, learning the tricks of the trades with my parents and my grandparents and stuff. And then after a little while, I come out of that industry and went into running my own business in the parquet flooring and hardwood flooring industry. During COVID, really scaled that up and earned quite a lot of money. And then, unfortunately, because I was unable to delegate my jobs properly, I got too much work and it was just too stressful. And then I looked for other avenues to sort of earn money from. And then I come into property and it sort of all scaled from there. So like the first property that I'd done was just a residential property for me to live in. Really, really run down that I bought off my parents when they got divorced. And then I spent a small amount of money on that renovation, uplifted the value massively. And then obviously that's where it sort of the light bulb moment of you can make money from doing this
Started.
And yeah, then I went into the education side of things and really sort of found what path I wanted to take, because obviously we all know property is very lucrative in many different avenues.
When did you start? When did you do the change from a man that has a construction company that is very specialized doing flooring, and then all of a sudden you decide, oh, that's enough for me. I'm just going to focus on properties.
6 months.
6 months ago.
Yeah. Well, 6 months ago, I started my main property journey, but it was a year ago that I was, this time 18 months ago, I was employed and I come out of my business because it was too stressful. I didn't really know how to manage the business properly, if I'm honest. I've always been kind of entrepreneurial and just buy and sell stuff and, always try and make a couple of quid on the side. But from a business point of view, I couldn't handle that amount of work, hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, and it was just too much for me without the right sort of knowledge. So then I went back into employed work, and then I sort of started investing in myself through podcasts, audio books, and then I went into the property education side of things and learned from a mentor. And then that was May 2023. That's when I started the educational side of things, and then I realized that HMOs existed. And
so before that, nothing.
No, before that, no. I bought my house.
Can I ask you what was your capital that you started with?
When I first bought my house, the capital I probably had around 50-ish thousand saved, but I was working sort of 2 or 3 jobs at the time. Just obviously parents got divorced, they needed to sell the house because they couldn't financially keep it. So then I had a full-time job that I was doing. I had a car business that I was doing on the side. And then at the night time, I was delivering takeaways. So I sort of really sort of hustled and got 50 grand together to buy that property. And then
on a residential mortgage or buy-to-let?
Residential mortgage, because I didn't know anything about property at this time.
You just wanted to buy the property to live there?
Yeah, well,
help them and live there?
Well, it's to help my brother and sister, because I've got a younger brother and sister. I bought the property so they didn't have to worry about where they was going to live. The divorce it wasn't a good one. Never. I don't think it ever is, but it wasn't a good one. So that I bought that property. It was in a bit of a poor state, if I'm honest. And then I just slowly started doing it. As I was running my flooring business, I'd get a little bit of money here and there, and I'd change the kitchen and change the bathroom, and I would do all the work myself because I was from the building trade anyway. It just means I could live in the house in a bit of a worse condition because you can put up with it. And then, so I bought that for 190,000. I think I spent around 25,000 on it just over the space of 2 or 3 years. And then when I had the property education, I realized HMOs existed, and I realized what made a good HMO and sort of where the cash flow comes from. And I looked at my house and thought, well, I've just done a full renovation on the house. There's only a few things that I need to change to get it to comply. So I made those changes and turned it into a HMO, which then gave me enough passive income to go up to Grimsby on the 20th of January of 2024. I had £10,000 in the bank when I moved to Grimsby, and after refinance, then I learned about the refinancing and stuff like that. I refinanced the properties to then able to buy more properties, and then I just kept rinsing and repeating and changed small little things here and there to sort of
to make it work
for me. And like, market appreciation is great, but when it's your full-time job, you need cash flow. You can't rely on a 2 or 5 year remortgage to survive every time, So that's when I got into the Airbnbs, and we do a lot of work with North East Lincolnshire Council now as well. And it creates, I provide obviously financial investments for other entrepreneurs that aren't in property. So it creates a monthly cash flow that does allow me to do this full time, as well as then building a big portfolio for the long talk.
Do you regret not starting earlier?
Always, but I don't regret not starting earlier. I regret not learning earlier, because if I had started earlier, I would have made so many mistakes that could essentially bankrupt me, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I started the business at a time when I thought was the right time, but I failed that business because I didn't have the right education, So I could give you £100,000 and you could invest in property, but you might lose that £100,000 by the end of the year due to like lack of education,
Can I ask you? So when you started the first HMO,
Yep.
you had no experience?
No.
Whatsoever?
No. I didn't even know what HMO was until I went on the education.
So what was the biggest challenge you found?
I think the big challenge I found was just sticking to one thing. Find your niche. Like, there's many, many different ventures in property. You can do so many different things, but you don't want to be just okay at all of them. Like, if you're good at one thing and you just specialize in one thing, you can then be more successful and provide more value for that one thing.
When you were doing the refurbishment, what was the thing what was like the biggest challenge? Like, you're like, what was the thing that you got stuck?
Probably letting other people live in my house. There was no challenges as regards to actually building the house or any of the renovations. I was in the trade. I had friends that were in the trade that I could ask for help for if I needed it. So there was no financial challenges. There was no skill challenges or anything like that. The hardest thing that I found was the mental challenge of leaving your town. I lived in Kent for, well, all my life, 30 odd years. To leave Kent with a van full of stuff and have 4 random people live in my house and trust them to look after it and pay the bills, that was the biggest challenge.
And how's it going now?
Yes, we have problems sometimes. I'll be lying if I said it was perfect, but
I hate HMOs, you know that.
Yeah,
I think the turnover of tenants in HMOs is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it is one small void, couple of weeks here or there, will wipe your profit.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a very big risk. I mean, like, chapeau to you that you can do it. I don't know how to do HMO at all.
It all comes down to your target audience, your location.
I mean, I only have one property in HMO. It's in Beckenham in London.
Good location.
4 beds. I would say if this property generates £600 to £800 after paying mortgages and bills, everything, I'll be the luckiest man on the planet. Every time there is something, the garden need this, the locks need this, there is a leak here, there is a leak there.
Yep.
There's just the complaints every single month and what they're doing to the property is just too much.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know how to do it.
So in Kent and like the London southeast area in general, obviously property prices are huge just because of it being in the southeast, which means mortgage payments are massive, which means your profit margins are smaller. So obviously with my property, like I said, I bought that for 190. I refinanced that at 290. The mortgage on that, I think I've got about 225 grand worth of mortgage. The mortgage payment is £730 a month.
When did you refinance this?
Beginning of the year, literally just 6 months ago. So
HMO or
yes.
or buy to let.
Just yeah, it's a HMO. Yeah. It's and obviously with the interest rates and stuff like that, I think my mortgage is around £730 a month. By the time I pay the bills, the house generates £2,875 a month. So by the time I pay, the problem is that property is in my residential name. So Section 21 tax comes into play, which affects me a lot. But from an actual financial point of view, the property does perform very well. It's just that I bought that house as my residential home, so it was in my name. I didn't ever expect it to be an investment property. So I can pay the stamp duty and put it in a limited company, but then obviously it's quite a large expense.
A big.
So I'm just at the moment I'm working that out.
Weighing both options.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. So within property, there's always multiple options. There's always multiple strategies. It's just which one works for you best at the time. Like at the moment, I'm looking at creating as much cash flow as possible. So I don't want to be spending £15,000 on stamp duty because I want that money to then go and maybe buy a property that's going to earn me money. So
can I ask you, when you went to Grimsby, and you just had the house, rented it to other people, got into your van and drove all the way up to Grimsby. On your journey over there, what were you thinking? I assume you don't know anyone over there.
No.
You just drove into a town that you didn't know anyone.
I've got who now is one of my best friends. He come from the same property educational background that I come from. He was one of the mentors, and I explained to him at Christmas. I said to him, "Look, this is what I'm going to do next year." Like just to speak to someone about it, get a bit of feedback. And he didn't really say much. And I thought maybe it was like a good thing or bad thing. I just thought, I've told him, he hasn't said nothing. I'll just make my own decision. And then he rung me, and it happened that he had some properties in Grimsby. So he said, if you want to come to Grimsby, you can sort of manage some of my properties. You can do some of the work for me because he doesn't live there. And that's how it started. So I went up there. I didn't know where I was going to live, really. I knew that he was going to kind of help me with the accommodation a little bit, but I was going to be living in his houses that I was going to be refurbing. So they was essentially like almost buildings. When I first turned up, it was just an empty house, no bed, no nothing. I turned up at 2:00 in the afternoon, I'm thinking, where am I going to sleep? I have to go on Facebook Marketplace and buy like a sofa bed and stuff like that. But yeah, as I was driving up, a lot of people questioned my sanity and thought, what are you doing? But I'd spent the past 8 months doing all this due diligence, doing all the research behind the whole of the UK, and my business model worked best in areas where like the ROI was greater and maybe the capital appreciation. Yeah. So when you go on Rightmove or Zoopla and you look for properties and you go 3-bed houses or 2-bed houses cheapest first, 9 times out of 10, it's always the Northeast, around that area, Northeast Midlands, somewhere around there. And if you're buying the cheapest houses that are for sale,
are over there as well.
How are you going to lose money, really? Like if like I said to you earlier, I bought a house for a 3-bedroom house for 38 grand. Like, how can I lose money on that?
How much is the mortgage on this?
I bought it cash. So, but if I did have a mortgage, well, you can't get a mortgage on a property that value. So yeah. I bought it cash, but when I refinance that, it's going to be probably between 68 and 72,000. Obviously, I'll do a 75% loan to value, so my mortgage will be about probably be about 45,000, maybe around that. So I'm going to be paying £190 a month. It's impossible. Like if I leave 3 or 4 grand in that deal, or let's just say 10 grand in that deal, at £190 a month, it's impossible to lose money. Even as a normal standard buy to let, it's going to provide at least a 10% ROI. Then if you use a strategy like Airbnb, or you can even turn it into a little mini HMO if the rooms comply. Like you can always put a 4th bedroom downstairs or whatever, So when you combine these really cheap houses with lucrative cash flowing strategies, it's a no-brainer, really. Like it took me a little while to realize, but I didn't realize it until I was there and I realized what opportunity there was there, because I'd never been there before. I just drove there and I thought, first of all, oh, what have I done? Like you fucked up.
I bet your Friday night and Saturday night in the Southeast are much better than over there.
You say that
life there is different.
Yeah, it's very different, but I don't think I'll ever move back down to the Southeast.
Seriously?
Yeah, like the people up there are. just because it's a more financially diverse area. Like there's not a lot of money there at all, but people are still friendly. They've still got like there's a small beach town next to Grimsby called Cleethorpes. It's like the northeast version of Whitstable or Herne Bay. Like you've got a pier, there's fish and chip shops, there's arcades, like you can walk the dog, there's areas of outstanding natural beauty, like if you're into your walks and stuff like that. There's petrol up there's 140 a litre. Like I know it's a little bit more down south, but what you actually get for your money is way more
than
up there. And you can live a much more comfortable lifestyle by working the same job.
What about the salaries over there?
Just like everywhere, you've got the Argoses or the Sainsbury's and Morrisons where they're just maybe basic wage, but then you've got engineers and people that work on the solar farms.
Are like the southeast or lower?
No, the salary down the south is way better. The average salary down south destroys up north, but there's still people that are up north that are earning 100 grand a year and they still live in Grimsby. It just means that they've got a lot more disposable income maybe, but that's the problem.
They're living like kings.
Yeah.
This.
No, they are living like kings, but they're the people that haven't got any money there they're never going to have any money. No, it sounds horrible, but once you've got that mindset
over there, to be able to grow.
There's loads of pubs, loads of betting shops, loads of things to keep you in that negative mindset. There's takeaways, McDonald's and KFC everywhere. Like I think there's 4 or 5 in Grimsby. Grimsby's no bigger than probably it's not as big as nowhere near as big as Maidstone. Like to have 4 or 5 McDonald's in that area, that's without the Burger Kings, the KFCs, the Subways, you know, that is ridiculous. And the drive-throughs are always full. Like, and I come down southeast, all I hear is police sirens, ambulances running around like crazy. Up Grimsby, you get like the odd 1 or 2, but I know it's a more heavily populated area, but yeah, I just don't see any reason to come back down south unless I wanted to purchase properties for market appreciation, because I know that they're not going to cash flow. So I'll maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, I'll build up such a large cash flowing portfolio.
And you leave the country.
Yeah. Well,
come back southeast.
Yeah, exactly. The UK for me is an abysmal place to live at the minute. So moving to, I don't know, Bali, Dubai, Portugal's another big one. Like there's so many opportunities when you
cash flow heavy here, you can live good, you can have a very nice life anywhere in the world.
Correct.
Anywhere in the world.
And it's hands off. If you can pay the people to delegate, which I've learned now, I've learned to delegate. There's people that are paid like accountants, mortgage advisors, solicitors. Like I have this power team
even
with
managing
me now.
them.
Yeah.
I don't manage our property portfolio anymore.
Yeah,
I just think that my time is much more valuable to be out there looking at deals, out there getting deals done, out there getting properties refurbished and completed, rather than trying to save the 8% or the 5% or the 10% on property management.
Yeah,
because someone has to manage them. You are going to lose this money anyways. So either you lost from your time or going to pay someone to do it.
Yeah, and the person that you pay to do it knows how to correct the issues much better than you do. So you get faced with an issue, it's going to take you twice as long. They're going to know
because you'll be learning. They have done this with a lot of people. They know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And this is their only job as well.
Correct.
But managing the properties is not my only job. So I will be doing it next to 10,000 other things.
Yeah.
I want to be able to give 100%.
And that's, I've managed to find my niche in Grimsby where like my communicational skills and how I act as a person has sort of benefited me massively in Grimsby, because the competition isn't like what it is down London. Like if you're like, let's just say, for example, you're earning 100,000 and you're in Southeast, that's, you don't stand out as much, you know?
Let me ask you a question. There's a lot of young people watching us that don't know anything about properties.
Yeah.
Okay, and a lot of people saying you need a lot of money to start in properties. You started in the Northeast and properties there are not expensive. Can you just correct this myth and just tell people if they need to start now from scratch, how much they need and how easy they can do it? You don't need to go into more details, in a lot of details, just briefly.
The people that say that you don't need no money, that you can't start property with money, the people that have the poor mindsets as well. It's not, you don't have to have a poor bank balance. It's the mindset that kills you. Like if you was to take away everything I had and put me in, I don't know, the West Midlands rather than Northeast, I would still manage to find a way to create a portfolio. I might not own the properties, but I will start cash flowing money reasonably quickly. You have to, it's the mindset that kills the dream. Like people will look at it and say, oh, I've got £500. How can I I become successful in property? You have to learn how to become successful in property. Like, for example, I don't know, like a IT technician, they didn't just wake up and start doing coding on computers. You have to go and learn how to code computers.
But let's break it down to listeners. So if you don't have money, you have only £500 or
Yeah.
£1,000 in your bank, the first thing you can do is just to work a little bit harder, have
Yeah.
£2,000-3,000 in your bank, and then you can go and do rent to rent.
Yeah.
You can start with rent to rent. From this, you can generate 5, 6, 7 grand within 5-6 months or even 12 months, and
Yeah.
then you can go and do another rent to rent.
Yeah.
In 3-4 years, you can be generating around 30,000-40,000 pounds a year from rent to rent, and then that can be used to be a deposit for your first property you're going to purchase, whether it's a HMO, whether
Yeah.
it's a buy to let, whether you do with it, whatever you do with it.
Yeah.
So
I would always recommend education first. Like, if you've got £500, like, I'm a firm believer of spending that £500 on education, because, like, or if you've got £3,000, don't spend like maybe all the £3,000 on education, but I think it's going to cost you more in the long run to try and work it out as you go along than it is like if you've got £3,000 and you say to me, "Oh, is Airbnb worth it?" and I say yes.
I'm going to pay you this £3,000 and you teach me.
Yeah, but then, well, we could do an earn and learn where you still buy it and I teach you how to do it yourself. So when you do the next one, you've already got it in your head, like, this is what I need to do, this is how I do it. But if I was just to give you £3,000 and say, right, go and do Airbnb, what are you going to do? You don't know. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to make a mistake.
Have you been taught by a lot of mentors? Or how many mentors?
One single mentor. I was part of the Samuel Leeds Academy.
Okay. And have you worked with Samuel Leeds personally?
Sorry?
Have you worked with Samuel Leeds personally?
Yeah, I've got podcast on YouTube with Samuel, like, sharing my successes.
Okay.
My business partner is one of the mentors of that franchise. Like, he's one of the guys that teach everyone else. I'd like to think that the services that I offer are of a standard where I get to work with these people, sort of in speaks with multiple different property millionaires all through that circle of people. You know, it's
so do you believe that joining someone leads courses and an academy has changed how you think?
100%. But I will say, obviously, there is a stigma between all the different mentors. There's a bunch out there, and you can pay £2,000, you can pay 20 grand. But at the end of the day, I see certain people moaning about certain courses and certain mentors. But then when they're there learning, they're on their phone scrolling through Instagram and TikTok, and they're not listening to what the guys are saying. You know, like, you can only be as successful as what you want to be. The person that's comfortable in their 9 to 5 with a couple of grand in their bank and they're going out on Friday and Saturday, they're not in a rush to change their life. Like, they're going to listen a little bit, learn a little bit, and go, "Oh no, it's a waste of time. It doesn't work." But, like, for myself, I was hungry. Like, I'd run a business myself. I'd worked a 9 to 5. I'd worked 16 hours a day for 2 years. I knew that, like, on the way here, I see people sat in their vans having lunch on the side of the road in 33-degree heat. And I think, well, sod that. Like, that was me 18 months ago. Now, portfolio is nearly £1 million. Last month, I generated 25 grand revenue. Like, someone will work all year for that, and I done it in a month without getting dirty. It's just because of the offers, like the services that I offer, maybe the way that I act, entrepreneurial and business minded. Like, it's just, you have to want to be successful. You have to want to be that next level person. You know, you got to change your mindset, and that education that I paid for completely rewired my brain. Like, I had 15-20 grand before I started the academy. I had 25 grand maybe, and I used to just protect that money. And I used to go on my banking app and think, oh, like, if anything goes wrong, I can fix the problem. But 25 grand these days, now I know it's nothing. Like, 25 grand, it's not even a deposit down south. Like, up north, you can buy houses with that. But when you realize that you have to spend the money to then get the money back later on in life, you know, that's when I realized, £12,000 for education. It's 50% of my, like, savings. But this year I've done 150k. So, and we're only 6-7 months in, you know.
So it was £12,000 very well spent.
Yeah, but I started from January the 20th, so pretty much the first the first month was gone, and I started not knowing anyone. I didn't know any estate agents. I didn't know where I was getting my hair cut. I didn't know where the gym was. I was Googling where the petrol stations were. Like, I didn't know anything. So if I can start that from zero, like, yeah, I had a little bit of money and I had one contact that gave me a bit of a leg up, but all he done was put me in a house and said, right, I want you to stage this for Airbnb. He paid me a small amount of money to do it, but I still went out there. I networked with all the estate agents. I went into the councils. I went into all these large corporate industrial estates and said, like, this is what I'm doing. This is who I am. And I think because they saw that hunger, they gave me the chance. And now estate agents, I don't go into estate agents and sell myself no more. Sometimes I go into their offices and I'll work from the office because I have such a good relationship with them. Like, it was my birthday a couple of weeks ago. One of the estate agents took me out for my birthday. Like, I get invited to baby showers. Like, I'm not just a normal guy now.
You're not
like,
a stranger there anymore.
No. And when you might say to me, oh, I'm looking for a property, I want a 10% ROI. I've got such a good relationship now that they'll find that for me. So the service that I charge is based off of the relationships that I've already previously made, you know? So it all works when you believe the strategy and the service that you're providing, it all works in full circle. So if I can do it, I'm no one special, and I managed to do it in an area that I didn't know anything about. People can do it in their own patch. If they know an area well, Kent is really good for, like.
Yeah, but I'm a firm believer cash flow is very important.
Yeah.
And if properties up north are not expensive, then it should be a very good market for a lot of property investors to go up north, because it's easier to buy properties when they are.
Yeah, it's the most people look at. They don't understand the power of compound. I think when you realize that you can quite easily 5x your cash flow with less money invested than down south. Like, for example, if I can make £1,000 a month through a BRR to serviced accommodation property, it might cost me £65,000 to buy the property, get it renovated, but then it might be worth 85,000. I can do 5-6 of those in quite a short space of time and generate £5,000 or £6,000 a month in revenue than doing one BRR down in Kent with a big deposit, expensive refurb costs, and then when you go to flip it, you've got to pay 20% tax on that. Then you have to wait for someone to buy it. And do you know what I mean? That, like, I feel like Kent is the old business property strategy, you know, like buy a house, uplift the value, sell it, buy another one. It does work, but it's just so expensive now. The only people that can do it are either the rich people or the people that still live with their parents that are able to earn enough money to save up for a deposit and then do it. Up north, the houses are in poor condition. Landlords have got a really bad stigma because they would have bought the nice house. The tenants would have come in, maybe not looked after it, or the landlord didn't look after it. Then the house becomes in poor condition. He then can't get any tenants in. He doesn't want to spend the money renovating it.
Because
So
of
then
the money.
so then he sells it for a cheap price. So then I buy it and then I rejuvenate that house. And
Do you manage properties for investors?
yeah, do everything. There's not a service in property that we don't. We do
So
social
what
housing.
services do you do?
We do bespoke sourcing for investors. We do project management. We do HMO conversions. We do normal BRRs. We do serviced accommodation management. I do social housing and emergency housing management. We do social housing and council accommodation. So we provide the council with houses for the less fortunate people that may have experienced domestic violence or drug or alcohol abuse and stuff like that. So the only thing that I don't really do is commercial to residential at the moment, but that's just because that's not my niche, you know. I'm slowly but surely just working through the niches,
Finding your niche, proving you can do it, and then
offering that service. And I won't offer a service that I can't confidently provide value for, you know. Like, I know people say to me, how are you able to make these decisions like so quickly over such, like, sometimes large amounts of money? And it's because I believe in what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing is right. I've already proved it from going from.
What is the cycle up north for a BRR?
What do you mean? Sorry.
Or a cycle from buying a house over there refurbish it, and refinance it. What's the cycle up north?
12 weeks. If you get it in the right, if you've got a solicitor that can move fast and you're buying properties cash, you can quite easily buy a house. If you've got a build, like for me, for example, I've already got a build team there. They already know exactly what my standards are. I'll buy the house. The solicitor knows that I'm looking to complete quickly. I pay him a fee because we are moving quickly. So it's just purchase the house. And we always negotiate that we can get access to the property during completion. We don't wait for the property to complete. We know that it's going to complete. Proof of funds are
To
there.
go there and do the work.
We start ripping out, start getting plans of what's going to happen. By the time it's completed, we're halfway through the renovation. Then we finish the renovation. We do the refinance. The refinance is taking quite a long time at the moment. Like for some reason, they're sort of 10, 12, 14 weeks for the refinance, which is the pain.
I think it depends what route of refinance you're using.
Yeah.
I think if you're using standard buy-to-let, you can still do it in 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
But if you're going for a HMO or short-term let furnished, I've never done this one before, so I don't know how long it takes.
Yeah, when you're doing the refinancing, there's always lenders for it, but you just reduce your amount of lenders, you know. So like with the furnished holiday let mortgages, there's certain things that need to be in place to increase your variety of lenders for the product. Like buy to let is so vanilla. There's just so many. They know it's a safe bet as long as the rent pays the mortgage and stuff like that.
1.2%, 120% stress rate.
Yeah, once you pass that, you're going to get a mortgage. But with the Airbnb kind of thing,
what are the restrictions?
What for furnished holiday lets?
Yeah.
There's not really. Like when I done my furnished holiday let, they asked me how much I'm expected to earn per month. I told them the amount. I've gave them comparables of other properties that we have in the area or friends that I've got operating in that area, and I get the mortgage. It goes through obviously a specific process and stuff like that.
Can I ask you, so how is the mortgage calculated then? Because buy to let is 75% of the market value, subject to 120% stress rate.
Yeah, so the furnished holiday lets, that's down to my mortgage advisor. I don't know what the calculations are for getting that mortgage. I just say to her, look, this is what I've got. This is what I'm going to do. Make it happen. And I don't want to be dealing with all that. I'm terrible at admin.
So how are you sure every time that you'll be able to get all your investment back?
Because that's done through GDV.
Okay.
So obviously I'm looking.
So does the GDV, is it subject to just the comparables in the area?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and because I've been in Grimsby, like my day job now is driving around Grimsby.
So no prices over there?
Yeah, I know the price is better than anyone. Like I know price is better than the estate agents.
So you don't have any restriction on the rental income when it comes to short-term lets? It's just a straight 75%?
Yeah, well, some of them are 80%.
Wow.
Some of them are 80% to get that, if you get the right lender. And it all depends on, like I said, like the comparables that you've got in the area. Like we purchased a house, like I said, 60K, spent 13, 14 grand on it. We got the GDV 3 months later at 110. All money out. It's going to cash flow 1,500 to 2 grand a month. Those ones are no brainers. I'll do them until I've got no money left. And then when I haven't got no money, I'll just raise money. Raising finance, again, when you ask me, can you start property with no money? You didn't say about other people's money. Like you can, if I've got a good relationship with you and I can say to you, look, I've spent this money on my education. This is what I've learned. These are the opportunities that I found. Would you be interested in investing? You can work with other people that do have money. So like I said, you have to be creative. Property is so versatile. There is no one rule fits everyone, you know?
What is your next biggest goal in property development?
To reach £1 million portfolio.
But you're at 750 grand now, so that is not hard now.
Christmas, hopefully. Christmas.
So what is other than that?
I think I'd like to be cash flowing sort of 5 figures a month continuously, passively. So through sourcing or through project management and the Airbnbs and stuff like that, and the rental income, I would like that to be at sort of £10,000 to £15,000 in the next sort of maybe 12 months. Just so once, in my opinion, when you're earning that kind of money, you're already on the way to like being very, very successful. But it's just trying to get everything implemented to make that a reoccurring. Like 25 grand months. I've had 10 grand months, but it's consistency. You know, it's no good having 10 grand month for once in 9 months. If you get the 10 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand, after 2 or 3 months, you can go and buy another house. And then that's when the compound again comes in, because the cash flow adds to that. And then all of a sudden it's not 10 grand a month, it's 11 grand. And then after 5 or 6 months, it's 15 grand. And then after another 12 months, it's 25 grand. And then all of a sudden you've got such a large portfolio, you're hands off, you're enjoying time with friends, family, your kids or whatever. And that's when you essentially, I think you've made it, when you don't have to work for your money. Like at the moment, I'm still working very hard, keeping those relationships, making sure that I know my GDVs, my refurb costs, finding ways where I can provide more value to people. Like I love being able to get a refurb cost from 50,000 down to 40,000, but still provide a good value. You know, like there's certain things that you can do that are cheaper that still provide a really good finish. So that's the thing that I'm trying to work on at the moment, is obviously the cheaper that you buy the house, the cheaper you do the refurb, the more chance you've got of making money on the property, because your money invested is a lot lower. Obviously, you just got to make sure that you still keep the GDV high. So that's what I'm trying to do at the moment. I'm just trying to buy the cheap houses, do affordable refurbs, but bring them up to a nice GDV standard.
Okay, you were saying that the houses you bought in Grimsby is the
Yeah.
same price as 20 years ago,
Yeah,
but that is without refurbishments.
correct.
So after you do the refurbishment, you increase the value of the property. Does that mean that when you sell the property up there in Grimsby after it is refurbished, are you able to actually achieve this higher price, or that is only on finance, only finance?
It's a good question. I think that all comes down to your target market. If you're going to be buying a house, like I buy houses in crappy areas, like sometimes, because that's sometimes, like I said, 38 grand. It's not going to be in anywhere spectacular, you know. There's going to be the odd mattress outside the front of the house and the odd beer can tumbling down the road. But if I'm looking at houses to flip, then my strategy changes, because I'm no longer looking at that refinance strategy. Do you know what I mean? So you adapt to the strategy that you're trying to
So
do.
we're just looking at areas.
Yeah. So if I'm looking to do a flip project or a flip investment, I would do it in Grimsby, but in just a completely different area where it's closer to schools, doctors, town centres, beaches, where families want to live, where they're happy to pay for a nice family home, you know? So you have to be versatile with what you're investing in, depending on what you're trying to get out of it on the back end. Because if you go and buy a house in a crappy area and make it really nice, the family with 2 or 3 kids might not want to bring up their children on that road, you know. But for people coming to stay on Airbnb that are only there Monday to Friday, that are happy working away for those 5 days, and they just want a bed to stay in, it's a good investment. So you have to, do you know what I mean? Every single thing is dependent on what you're trying to do. There's no one rule that fits all in property, and that works for anywhere in the world. Like a lot of people are buying properties in Dubai at the moment. There's a lot of like off-plan deals being sold. Like I don't believe in any of that, if I'm honest. I don't like that sort of structure, but I don't know much about it to say that. I'm just, from what I've learned, it's not a bit of me. But I'm sure that there's like the rent to rent strategy, for example, in Dubai seems crazy. Same as Bali. Rent to rent in Bali is another massive thing. And there's people out there that are on social media that are proving that it works. But
I think rent to rent works everywhere. Works everywhere if you can get the property on a very good rent originally, and then just break down the days.
Yeah.
But the most important thing, you just need to make sure that the market is there.
Yeah.
Is the Airbnb market ever going to slow down in the UK?
Yes.
When?
Yeah, it will. When, I don't know. But the more and
I'm
more,
not talking about regulations now. I'm talking about the actual market,
no.
people spending.
No. Now people have realized how beneficial Airbnb is. You can see the demand now. Like the problem is that the government filled hotels with immigrants. Now these hotels don't have occupancy. So everyone that used to go to those hotels are looking for alternate options.
And hotels also don't have money to go and refurbish after.
Yeah.
Because everyone rents the money as I was coming, especially all hotel providers.
So all these people that used to stay at the Premier Inns and the
Travel lodges.
Yeah, travel lodges and stuff like that, they need somewhere to go. So now there's 3 or 4 of them that are getting a little house that you've got for rent on booking.com or Airbnb, and they all get to live and socialize in a house together. They get to cook dinner, they get to watch TV.
Have you ever done Airbnb per room or no?
I know people that have done it on a large scale, and it works very well.
What do you mean?
I've got a friend of mine who's based in the Grimsby area, just on the outskirts. He purchased this apart hotel, which is essentially a massive house. It's got 21 rooms. Rather than do it as a hotel or as just one big Airbnb product, he's got all of the rooms out on Airbnb. And quite often when we talk, he's doing £16,000 a month, sometimes in profit. And he's in his early 20s. He's gone through the same educational mentors that I have. And Airbnb, I know people down in Kent. I don't know if you know Dammy. Dammy's a Medway lad, and he specialises in Airbnb. And he's got over 100 units now. And his rental income from what he's doing is phenomenal. But he's got cottages that are out in the middle of the Kent countryside that he's probably paying. Obviously, I can't quote how much he's paying, but it's probably £5,000, £6,000, £7,000 a month. But he's advertising those to luxury clients that want to stay and have that luxury cottage house in the countryside, and he's still making incredible profits every month.
Is that on rent to rent?
No, some of it's on rent to rent, but I think now he's trying to progress his portfolio through purchasing as well, just because the market appreciation in Kent is so good. But whether it's a 1-bedroom flat, a studio apartment, or a 10-bed mansion, if you've got the right negotiations in place and the right clientele.
What I was thinking, because I have been seeing a lot of stuff online right now, people will buy a house, and instead of doing it on HMO, they will do it on Airbnb, but per room. So
yeah,
I was just asking you, just out of curiosity, have you ever done this before?
I haven't, no.
Because I see it a bit difficult because they'll be sharing the same kitchen.
Yes.
So
just in your description, you just say that I know people that in Grimsby that are doing this, and basically it's like a lucrative HMO, because obviously you're charging per night rather than a monthly rent. So you've got a lucrative HMO with no regulations. You don't have to comply with room sizes and stuff like that for a HMO license. Obviously, you need to comply with room sizes and amenity standards and stuff like that. If you're doing it as serviced accommodation, you don't need to. So it's an easy way. I must admit, I probably don't really agree with it, because it just means that landlords can probably just bypass the HMO license and offer really small rooms to people that.
But I don't think you need HMO license under 4 rooms, right?
All depends on the council. In London, you do.
Okay.
In certain councils in London, you need a HMO license for over 2 rooms, I believe. In Grimsby,
in Greenwich you need. I know in Greenwich.
Yeah, so it's all based off of council discrepancies. Like in Grimsby, it's 4 bedrooms, or 5 bedrooms are above. Sorry, so 4 bedrooms is okay. You don't need a license, but you still need to have the fire doors. You still need to have the fire blankets in the kitchen. The rooms still need to meet some sort of criteria. You can't just.
You still need to have the fireboard, fire plaster boards, fire insulation.
Yeah, there's
the doors with 60 minutes fire rating and all the stuff, but you don't need a license.
Yeah, you don't have to. I don't think you don't have to have the fireboard installation and stuff like that, because that comes in with the license. So you just have to. I know you have to have fire doors just as a basic precaution for health and safety. Like you need the fire blanket in the kitchen. The rooms, again, they don't have to be within tolerances, because you're not going to get the license, so the room doesn't have to comply with the sizes. But it's good to comply with the sizes anyway. Like all of my properties, some of them haven't got HMO licenses because they're not needed, but they all still meet HMO requirements, so I've covered my back. We might not go to the scale of like a 4-bed house having a full fire alarm system and stuff like that, because it's daft.
It's not needed.
It's not needed, but we still got, like you say, fire plasterboard where we need it. All the fire doors are where they need to be. All the rooms are in perfect room sizes. Like some of the bedrooms that I've got are 16 square meters. Like it's huge. You don't need a bedroom that big. Like a lot of people would split that into 2 and have 2 little tiny bedrooms and try and boost the money that way. But I'm trying to provide value for people that, like, I want good tenants. If you provide the tenants,
and you also want to have a brand.
Yeah, and that's it.
You want people to be calling you looking for properties, not the other way around. Not you trying to rent your own properties.
Correct. And if you have good tenants and you provide them with a good place to live, 9 times out of 10 they respect you, they respect the house. Your rent is paid on time. You know, it's a much easier process than having to either evict people, hold back damage deposits, keep doing maintenance because they don't turn taps off, or do you know what I mean, something's always leaking. Like we get problems, everyone gets problems, even with like the rent to rent sometimes, or Airbnb. There's always problems, but it's how you're going to solve the problems. Like most problems that I have are quite small, they're not anything that really needs a lot of thought. But once you start, like I said, once you start doing it, you find the right answers for the right questions. So every time you come into a situation, you've already handled that in the past, you know, that's what, or you've learned that in the past from someone else. That's why I said education is really important, because I've experienced way more different properties than some problems in property that someone else that's just starting off might have.
You know why? Because you're learning from someone else's experience.
Yeah.
You are starting where they stopped.
Yeah, exactly. And I would happily part ways with large sums of money to learn from people that are doing stuff that's 10x above what I'm doing, because you're trying to improve.
You're going to start your own course or academy.
No, just because my brand is based off of like provide. I do like bespoke mentorship and like learn and earns. So if there's any investors out there that want to get into property that don't know what to do, we can then use their money to invest in property for themselves. But I will charge a service to sort of hold their hand as they go, to then sort of push them on their way.
And what about if they have no time to do anything?
Then they can come to me for like bespoke investment opportunities, and we will either fix their investment on a fixed ROI, or we'll give them an equity split. Or it all depends on what the investor wants. Like a lot of people don't realize that property is just a people game. Like if you're looking to make money from property as an investor, but you don't have the time, why don't you have the time? Do you run a massive business that already makes you very rich, and you're looking just to hold assets for for wealth protection? If so, market appreciation is probably going to be a really good thing for you, because you're not looking to generate a cash flow.
Yeah.
So, or are you looking to invest in property because you've been gifted some money and you want to get out of your 9 to 5 job? We then need to start looking at cash flow investments, you know? So it all depends on, I vet my investors heavily. I vet all of my mentors, like mentees, massively, because I need to know what you're looking for. How can I can't provide value to you until I know what the reason is behind it, you know? And I've had people offer me 100 grand before, and they've only got 100 grand in the bank. And I think, well, I'm not going to take every penny you've got. Like, what happens if your car breaks down? What happens if you lose your job? Like, I'll take maybe the £50,000 to leave you with some money as a buffer. But a lot of people will just take the £100,000 and grow their portfolio, which is great. But for me, it doesn't work like that. Like, I want to provide value. I don't want to have to quickly give someone's 100 grand back because
they are ever in need.
Yeah,
it will damage it can sometimes cause property foreclosures.
Yeah, and
if they need the money and they need to sell, then
it's unneeded stress for me as well. Like, I don't want to get halfway through a renovation with your money and then find out you need that money back now, because we haven't allowed for that, you know? Like, I need to, if I give you enough money in your savings as well as investing into me, it's an enjoyable process for everyone, because you're not worried financially. I'm not worried with your situation, and we can learn, we can grow. And then once you've done the first one, if the project went to plan and you're happy, we can then do another one. And then that's where compound comes in, you know? Like, if you've got £100,000 and you want to invest that into me, for example, and you just want a hands off 10% fixed return, in 12 months, you're going to get 110 grand. So then if you want to go again and invest that into me, you're going to have 121 grand, you know? And then after 3 or 4 years, you've turned 100 grand into 150 grand, and you haven't had to lift a finger. And it's a guaranteed investment. So
usually straight away, investments in properties is guaranteed because it's backed up by an asset. So nothing ever go wrong.
What happens if you haven't done your refurb costs properly and it ends up costing you 20 grand more in refurb and you don't make money?
It does not. If in Southeast, it does not matter. You're gonna get this money in 2 years. We kept appreciation.
Yeah,
It never goes wrong. It never goes. I bought a property and it cost me more money. I think £30,000 more
Yeah.
on the refurbishment, because I discovered that all the sash windows in the property are all single glazed.
Yeah.
Okay,
Won't meet EPC.
and EPC was D or F. So it was F.
Yes.
And no bank
Shit.
except F EPC. I had to renew every single window, including the front doors, including everywhere.
Yeah, but what happens if you didn't have that money?
Yeah,
That's what
okay.
I'm saying. If you
Yeah, but-
budget 100 grand,
Yeah,
and
but
you,
no, yeah, but if you're working in properties, you always have extra 10-15% as contingency, because anything can go wrong in property. Anything can go
yeah,
wrong.
of
Anything.
course, yeah,
You
yeah.
know? You-
It's that I think that comes down to the education side of things as well, though, because
Yeah.
a lot of people won't allow. They'll see it as
They will go full on with only what they have.
Yeah.
And whatever any problem that will appear, it will get them bankrupt, and that's when they will be selling it as distressed price.
yeah, and these people aren't like you. Not everyone can be from a building background. Like I know what most general trades cost. I know how long things take. I know what goes into turning a bedroom into like an ensuite bedroom for a HMO. I know that when you've got a dining room and you need to turn that into a bedroom for someone to live in, I know what goes into that. I know where the money goes. I know what the builder has to do to make that happen. Whereas someone that works as a teacher in a school, they've got no idea. So, you know, that's where the education comes in sometimes, because you pay to learn that kind of stuff, but you don't really know until you start doing it. But I always, like you say, you always have to be conservative with your numbers. And I'm even more than 10%, 15 to 20%. Like if I'm buying a house for 100 grand, I want to try and buy it for 90. If the refurb's going to cost 30, I'm going to allow 40. If the GDV is 180, I'm going to allow 150. You know, like I need
So I
to.
just covered anything else you do is bonus.
Yeah.
If you got the 180 GDV, then it's bonus 30 grand. If you do it for 40 grand, it's
But
bonus.
if it makes money off of the worst case scenario,
yeah.
that's where my confidence comes from. I am so well calculated. Everything is down to the final penny. If it makes money on that final penny, I know that unless I've really fucked up, I'm going to earn good money off of it. And the properties that I've had at the moment, I've not had one property that's not all money out. Every single one, all money out. And now we're getting into like the lease option agreement. So I've got a lease option agreement, which is a HMO, another crazy way to generate really good cash flow from not having any money. You don't have to have any money for a lease option agreement. You're agreeing to buy a house at a fixed price now in 5 or 10 years' time. So that's a HMO in Boston, in Lincolnshire. It's already got tenants in there. It's already turning over money. I've agreed to buy that for 130 grand in 5 years. But 5 years ago, a house sold on that road for 140 grand. So I know that in 5 years' time, that's going to be worth maybe 165, 170, depending on what standard I do it up within that time.
And you're leasing it at the moment.
Yes. Yeah. So I've got a first charge on that property. So that cannot be sold from me. I have the first charge. If I want to buy that property, no one can buy it from me without me saying, sort of thing. So obviously I've agreed to buy that in 5 years for 130,000. When it's worth 160,000, let's just say, I've had 5 years worth of cash flow. Maybe let's just say it's £1,000 a month. In 5 years, that's 60,000. So I'm going to put down a deposit on £130,000, which is going to be 25%. It's going to be about, I don't know, 40 odd thousand pounds rough. Well, no, it's not. It's going to be about £30,000 roughly, 32,000. So the 60,000 pays for that deposit. And then I've got an asset that's worth 160 grand that
below market value.
Below market value, but cash flowing for 5 years, earning me money before I even own it, you know? And you won't know any of these strategies until you go and learn from someone that's done them, which is why, again, the education is so important, because sometimes like lease option agreements are kind of coming into the market now, and a lot more people want them because
it's a very American thing.
Yes, they call it something else in America.
They call it seller finance.
Yes,
basically you buy from someone, and then this person can you can buy it from him later, or he can be you can be buying it. You can be buying the property from the seller on installments, paying him across 5 years, 6 years, without getting any bank involved. So you're buying it, you're paying it as you go, until you finalize the whole purchase. It's not yours, it's his.
Yeah.
But once everything is paid, it's yours.
It's sort of similar, but it's a different aspect.
But that's what we always do here in the UK. We get the idea from the US.
Yeah.
We, you know,
Another thing that's really popular at the moment is assisted sales. Like that's massive in the UK, and people don't even know what it is.
what is that?
Yeah,
I don't know
exactly.
that, yeah.
So assisted sale is if you've got a house, it's in a rundown condition, you want 200 grand for it. But if the market value is 300 grand, because when they're nice, they're worth 300 grand.
I got someone to buy
I'll
with
say
you.
to you, look, I will give you the 200 grand. Once I've renovated it, I will spend my money to renovate it. Let's just say it's £25,000. I spend my 25,000 on your £200,000 house. Then we sell it for 300. You get your 200. I get my 25 grand that I spent on it plus the 75 grand profit. I make money without even owning the asset. So like it's crazy, and there's loads of properties that benefit from that.
Seriously?
Yeah, loads.
Put me in touch with them, please.
Yeah, all for a sourcing fee, mate. But there's just, like I said, property is so versatile, and you can bend things to however far your mind can stretch, as long as there's a contract in place or there's some kind of agreement that's a legally binding contract that favours both people favourably. You can't have it so biased in my favour. It's not a good business transaction. You know, I want to provide value to you. I want to earn a little bit of money. You want to earn a little bit of money. It's the best way of doing it. As soon as the landlord or someone feels like they're being taken advantage of, you instantly shut yourself out of the deal. You need to find out what the pressure points are. Like if you're selling your house for 200 grand, why? Like, are you in financial disruption,
yeah.
or have you lost a family member? Are you looking to just sell the family home? Like, I can tailor an investment strategy or a negotiation strategy based off what your pain point is. You know, like, I don't want to be like, oh, well, I don't know. Unfortunately, you've had someone die. You can't afford the house. I'm going to offer you a massively below market value offer, because all it does is create hatred between someone, you know, like, let's keep the house, let's do a refurb on it, and let's sell it. You get the money that you need to come away from the deal happy. I get the money that I've provided value for, and everyone wins. You don't get a bag. So many stigmas around
And who
property
pays capital
investment.
against tax?
There won't be no capital. It depends on the property. If it might be their residential property, so they won't pay capital gains, but I'll pay tax because that's profit earned. You know, so there's taxes to pay that depending on the situation.
But I mean, so because it might be the residential property, then there will not be capital gains tax because they live there more than 2 years, so it doesn't.
Yeah, some is it 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years or proving that it's your main residential property.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Like if it's a buy-to-let property, obviously the tax will still fall down to the person that's selling the house because it's in their name. But we'll work that out where maybe the tax is split between us, or if I'm earning quite a large chunk of money out of that.
But you are also making money, so you're also paying tax on your own portion.
Yeah.
Because your portion, you have invested 25.
Correct.
You're getting back 100. There is 75 grand capital gains tax.
Correct. Yeah.
Or if it's a company, corporation tax.
And 9 times out of 10, the landlord will be happy he was going to pay tax on that property anyway. Yeah. So if it's an extra couple of grand, he's probably going to save money compared to accepting the below market value offer anyway. Like sometimes people's pressure points is time. Like, I need to sell this house quick.
Especially probate.
Correct. Or sometimes like divorces, or people have lost their jobs, or just anything in the world that could happen that affects them negatively, unfortunately. Like, they do require below market value purchases, because no one's going to pay for a market value price and then pay for it cash, pay for it in like a quick time. You know what I mean? They'd take it out on a mortgage, and it all get done very slowly by the solicitors. And like, do you know what I mean? So below market value is a great way to get into property, but you can't just, I see so many people get started in property and just offer but 25% below market value on everything. And then they wonder why the estate agents never call them. It's because you're just trying to, do you know what I mean? You're trying to take and take and take rather than give as well. Yeah. Like, I get estate agents call me now and ask me to sit down to help them work their HMO portfolio. Or, oh, we're looking at taking on HMOs. Can you come in and sit down and show us how you structure it, and we get something in place? Or I've taught estate agents all about lease option agreements. Like, I've been invited into an estate agent before they've opened, and I've done a presentation on lease options, because they get so many people that are trying to put houses in through the estate agents and they can't sell the houses. They're all investment opportunities. So why not rent them to someone, receive a monthly income, and then know that you've pretty much got a guaranteed sale on the back end of it? So the more that you can educate people, you can have it benefit you as well, because then they'll ring me up and say, oh, we've got a landlord that's open to the lease option agreement. And then I capitalize on that because I provided value to them, you know? So it's just, yeah, if you help everyone, 9 times out of 10, everyone will help you back.
100%.
But yeah, it's definitely a education thing, mate. And it's time as well. You can't rush it.
So what is your best piece of advice? Is it education or something else?
Best piece of advice would be only do what you believe in. Like these people that, for example, you might not believe rent to rent works. If you go and get 15 grand, why are you investing in rent to rent? You don't believe in it. Like it's silly. Like people don't invest money on trying to get rich quick. Get rich in investing in what you believe in, because that where the passion is will always take you further than where the money leads you, you know? Like I started doing rent to rent and it didn't quite click with me as soon as I wanted it to. Like I thought, oh, you know what? I'm just going to start getting rent to rent. It's going to be easy. I'm going to sell deals and do this and do that. And I struggled massively for 6 months because I was trying to do something that I didn't really want to do. Like I come from a building background. I wanted to be making houses nice, which is where the BRRs come in and the HMOs come in. And once I spent 6 months realizing that, I then went into the refinance, buying the HMOs and stuff like that. And then I started gaining traction. And then I realized that the cash flow from the rent to rent was a little bit on the side rather than my actual main passion. It's just like a small business venture, so to speak, to help financially. But yeah, my biggest piece of advice is just look at what you're looking to achieve and just work towards that thing through passion. Because if you just do it for a financial benefit, you might not succeed. And if you do, it might take 10 times as long.
Very interesting and very inspiring.
Thank you very much. Hopefully it's
Thank you very much for your
use.
time today. I'm sure a lot of people will learn a lot from this, especially that you highlighted how easy it is to start at a very low cost. And it doesn't really require a lot of capital at all. It just requires a lot of education.
Yeah.
If any of our listeners have any questions, we will tag Martin in all our posts and feel free to get in touch directly with him.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that.
Cheers,
Thank
mate.
you. Thank you.